Good morning. This lecture video is going to go over the parts of the peripheral nervous system, so including your cranial nerves and your spinal nerves. So before we get started, I just want to go over some commonly confused vocabulary that exists when we talk about the nervous system. So just to clarify what these different structures are. So neuron we've talked about already. It's the nervous system cell, dendrite, cell body, axon, axon terminal. When we talk about a nerve, we're talking specifically about neurons that are found in the central nervous system and specifically about their axons. So these are going to be neurons that are found in the brain and the spinal cord. When we talk about ganglia, we're talking about neurons that are found in the peripheral nervous system. So their job is going to be to carry signals to and from the brain and spinal cord. And we're referring to the cell bodies of those particular neurons. And when we talk about a plexus, we're talking about a group of ganglia that are kind of going to intertwine with each other and serve a general area. There are 5 major plexus, which we'll talk about here in just a second. So let's start with the cranial nerves. The cranial nerves are 12 pairs of nerves that connect your brain with parts of your head, trunk, and neck. Each nerve is going to correspond with a Roman numeral, so we name them cranial nerve 1, 2, 3, all the way through 12. And we're going to start with the most anterior cranial nerve, which will be labeled 1, and then move to the back, most posterior, which will be nerve number 12. And then we also give them an actual name too, as well as, cranial nerve 1, cranial nerve 2. These nerves can be either sensory or motor nerves, so they can be involved in sensory information, or they can also be involved in motor or movement information. So, looking at the cranial nerves, this is the diagram that's included in the worksheet. So again, you can see how this is the most anterior one, so this will be 1. This is the most posterior one, so this one would end up being 12 back in here. So we'll start with olfactory nerve, or cranial nerve 1, which is also called the olfactory nerve. This nerve is responsible for transmitting sensory information to your brain regarding smells that you encounter. So that's cranial nerve number 1. Going down to cranial nerve number 2, this is the optic nerve. Your optic nerve is the sensory nerve that involves vision. You can see that there is 1 on each side. All of these are paired nerves, but the point in which the 2 optic nerves join together is going to be called the optic chiasma. And so these are going to send the information from your retina to your brain. Going down to the 3rd cranial nerve is the oculomotor nerve. There's actually 2 different motor functions for this nerve. There's a muscle function and a pupil response. So in terms of muscle function, the oculomotor nerve provides movement for your eye and helps you focus on objects. And then in pupil response, it also helps control the size of your pupil as it responds to light. Going down to cranial nerve number 4, next one down is the trochlear nerve. This is going to control your superior oblique muscle, and that's the muscle that's responsible for downward, outward, and inward eye movement. So it's going to move your eye. Going to cranial nerve number 5, which is the trigeminal nerve. There are actually 3 different branches for this nerve. The ophthalmic, which is going to send information from the upper part of your face. The maxillary, which is going to send information from the middle part of your face, which would include your cheeks, your upper lip, and your nasal cavity. And then the mandibular, which is going to be both a sensory and a motor nerve, and it's going to send information from your ears, lower lip, and chin, and then also controls the movement of muscle within your jaw. So this nerve does a lot of different functions in terms of your face. Going to number 6, the abducen nerve, which is going to be right down here. This is going to control another muscle that's associated with eye movement, specifically the lateral rectus muscle, and this is going to allow your eyes to move outward, so like if you were looking to the side. Number 7 is the facial nerve. Right here in green, your facial nerve is going to be both a sensory and a motor nerve. It's going to move muscles used for facial expression. When you smile with joy at this lecture video, you're using your facial nerve. Also provides a sense of taste for most of your tongue. It supplies the glands in your head and neck area, like your salivary glands, and also your tear-producing glands. And then it also communicates sensations from the outer part of your ear. Number 8 is the vestibular cochlear nerve, and that's going to have sensory functions, including hearing and balance. It has a cochlear portion and the vestibular portion, so that's why it's got both of those in its name. Next is 9, the glossopharyngeal nerve. It's going to be responsible, again, both motor and sensory functions. It sends sensory information from your sinuses, the back of your throat, parts of your inner ear, and the back of your tongue. Also provides a sense of taste for the back of your tongue. In terms of motor function, it stimulates voluntary movement of a muscle in the back of your throat. Next is 10, the vagus nerve. This is going to have a whole bunch of functions, actually, both sensory and motor. It helps communicate sensation information from your ear canal and parts of your throat. It sends sensory information from organs in your chest and trunk, such as your heart and your intestines. It allows motor control of muscles in your throat, so especially important in swallowing. Stimulates the muscle of organs in your chest and trunk, including those that move food through your digestive tract. So it's going to help in digestion, moving the food down through the tract, and then providing a sense of taste near the very root of your tongue. So a lot of different things that the vagus nerve does. Going to 11 then, the accessory nerve, which is located right here. This is a motor nerve, and it controls the muscles in your neck. So this allows you to rotate, flex, and extend your neck and your shoulders. And then finally 12 is the hypoglossal nerve. This is the 12th cranial nerve, and it's responsible for the movement of most of the muscles in your tongue. So those are the locations and functions of your 12 paired cranial nerves, going from anterior to posterior. Moving on to the spinal nerves then. The spinal nerves are going to be major nerves of the body. There's 31 paired nerves, and they're formed by the merging of a sensory nerve root and a motor nerve root. So the dorsal root and the ventral roots. A plexus is a group of nerves that combine with each other. There's 5 of them: the cervical, the brachial, the lumbar, the sacral, and the coccygeal plexus. And then there are certain nerves that are going to be involved in each of these. So starting with the cervical plexus, which would be located up in here, this is going to be a network of intersecting nerves. One of the nerves that is a part of this plexus is the phrenic nerve, which stimulates your diaphragm. Going down to the brachial plexus, which is going to be located right here. Again, you can see where this bundle of nerves that kind of start to intertwine are right here. The brachial plexus is going to include 3 important nerves: the ulnar, medial, and radial nerves, all found in your arm. Remember, this is in the anatomical position, so the radial nerve will be on the thumb side or the lateral side. The medial nerve will be in between, and then the ulnar nerve will be on the ulna side or the pinky side, which will be on the most medial side. Moving down to the lumbar plexus then, which is right here, this will include or eventually branch into your femoral nerve, which is up here. Then the sacral plexus, which includes L4, L5, and then sacral vertebrae 1 through 4, is going to include your sciatic nerve, which is located right down here. And then the sympathetic chain ganglia. These ganglia aren't identifiable on this picture really, but they would actually be found up in this area up in here. And what these are is it's going to be a group of ganglia that are going to be in charge of all of your sympathetic nervous system responses, so specifically your fight and flight response. So it's going to activate all of the different things that are involved when you are feeling very stressed or in an emergency situation. So that is the anatomy of your peripheral nervous system, including your cranial nerves and your spinal nerves.